The story begins from a big white room where a Japanese man is lying down. As soon as he opens his eyes, he is startled to find himself in this vast empty space. He has no idea how he got there. He scans his surroundings, searching for any clues, until his gaze lands on something peculiar sticking out from the wall. He stares at it closely and rubs it, trying to understand what this peculiar-looking thing really is. Upon pressing the tip of it, thousands of baby angels start emerging from the walls, only to retreat seconds later, leaving behind a fraction of their forms exposed, which happens to be the same peculiar object. After realizing what he actually touched, he smells his finger and starts screaming loudly, asking for help. Met with silence, he begins pressing random buttons on the wall. Each button's press causes new items into the room, sometimes a toothbrush, other times a big bouquet of flowers. He figures that pressing a particular button only brings out a specific item. To test his theory, he keeps on pressing the same button and ends up creating a pile of chopsticks. Nevertheless, when he presses the next button, a shopping cart emerges from the wall and hits his leg, causing him pain. Pressing the third button leads the wall to transform into buttocks that fart on his face. Subsequently, he continued pressing random buttons and accumulated various items in the room. While playing with the ball, an inadvertent bounce strikes a button, prompting a sushi dish to pops out from the wall. This makes him happy because he hasn't eaten for hours. He thinks that if he could get some soya sauce for the sushi it would be perfect. In the hope of getting soya sauce he starts pressing all the buttons around him. However, every button press only results in sushi coming out from the wall. Finally accepting his fate he begins eating what he has got. After finishing his meal, he presses a button once again, and to his frustration, a bottle of soya sauce slides from the wall. Seeing this, he becomes angry and smashes the bottle away. When he presses the next button, a pair of 3D glasses emerges. As he puts on the glasses, he spots a baby angel pointing towards his own button. Seeing this he becomes very happy, thinking that he has solved the mystery of the room. However, the moment he presses the button a countdown begins. Upon reaching 0, a massive buttocks emerges from the wall and blows him away. After pressing a few more buttons, a comic book pops out which he finds quite entertaining. He spends a few hours reading it and completes 5 editions of it. Nevertheless, when he presses the button for the 6th edition, the 7th edition pops out. Frustrated, he presses yet another button only to have the 8th and 9th editions emerge. Driven by his eagerness to read the 6th edition, he presses one more button and suddenly a door opens behind him. Seeing the door, he is overjoyed that he might finally be able to get out. However, in his excitement he forgets the button he initially pressed, prompting him to start pressing random buttons in a desperate search for the right one. Pressing the first button causes an African man to run from one wall to another. Pressing the second button causes water to pour over his head. Finally, pressing the third button opens the door. But as he moves towards the door it shuts before he can reach it. After trying for a while, he realizes that he needs to keep the button pressed to keep the door open. He takes a running position next to the button hoping to reach the door quickly. However, before he can get there, the door shuts again. He also tried various quirky methods but nothing worked. He even rolls atop a shopping cart to quickly reach the door, but it also doesn't help. Afterward, he puts his mind to work and positions a bouquet onto the button. However, it isn't heavy enough to keep the button pressed. Now he needs to add more weight to the bouquet to make it heavier. He presses the water button in an attempt to fill the bouquet with water, but the water doesn't pour anywhere else except on his own body. Suddenly, an idea strikes his mind, and he fills the bouquet with sushi. With significant effort, he manages to lift the bouquet and place it on the button, only to discover that it's the wrong button. This causes the African man to run towards the bouquet, resulting in the bouquet cracking upon impact. He starts screaming in frustration, and after that, he tries a few more tricks, but the door always closes before he can reach it. Following that, he presses yet another button and a rope descends. He calculates that he can swing using the rope and reach the door quickly, and he succeeds in doing so. However, when he attempts to open the door located behind the wall, he realizes that he needs a key to open it. Just as he is returning to the room, the closing wall smacks his buttocks, causing him pain. In frustration, he kicks the wall and a button gets pressed, causing a key to float in the air. However, just like the door, the key also vanishes within a few seconds when he lets go of the button. Now he needs to find a way to quickly grab the key and reach the door. Unfortunately, he forgets the button once again and starts pressing random buttons. As a result, a dog emerges from the wall and starts barking at him. After a few attempts, he manages to place a piece of sushi on the correct button so that he won't forget it. After a couple of tries, he finally reaches the door with the key. However, the struggle isn't over yet. There is a numbered lock on top of the door. He rushes back into the room, but while entering, the wall smacks his buttocks again. In frustration, he throws a plunger in the direction of the wall, and upon hitting the button, the African man emerges once again. But this time he notices that the African man has a PIN code written on his head, and perhaps that number will unlock the door. Following that, he executes the plan successfully and unlocks the door. However, just as he achieves this, the wall gets closed behind him. Since the door only opens inwards, there isn't enough space for him to fully open it. As a result, he finds himself trapped in the small room. Feeling disheartened, he begins to cry and memories of the larger room flood his mind. He realizes how many resources he had in the big room. Although he isn't able to escape from that place either, at least he is better off there compared to this small room. After a while, he absent-mindedly places his hand on the left wall only to discover that it's a sliding door. He slides the door open and begins running outside. After running for a while, he eventually finds himself in another similar room with a bit of darkness. In this room, he starts pressing random buttons again. To his surprise, unlike the previous room, nothing comes out from the wall after pressing the button. Instead, each button press sets off strange events in the outside world. One button unleashes fire from a singer's mouth, another triggers a magician's show in Russia. Pressing a third button causes a man in China bark at his own dogs. He notices that unlike the previous room, this one isn't covered by a roof. Instead, there is a bright light coming from above, with angels flying in the radiance. A unique idea strikes his mind. Rather than simply pressing the buttons, he opts to climb atop them to reach higher. The act of pressing each button seems to trigger wondrous occurrences in various corners of the globe. Somewhere, flowers burst into bloom, while elsewhere, an elephant comically slips. As he ascends further, a volcano erupts in one part of the world, and astonishingly someone even hurls a shoe at the President of America. As he continues to ascend, his beard and hair grow long, and his appearance starts resembling that of Jesus. He no longer needs to hold onto walls, he can fly in the air like the other angels. A commanding voice declares his attainment of godhood, and now the world will follow his rules. Finally, after flying for a while, he arrives in the ultimate room, where the walls depict the entire map of the earth, and before him lies the largest button he has ever seen. As he moves to press it, the screen goes black and the movie comes to an end. If you enjoyed the explanation, please subscribe to the channel. See you in the next video. Till then, take care and goodbye.